Imagine waking up every morning in a palace, so vast it has more than 1,700 rooms. Marble corridors stretching for what feels like miles, gold accents everywhere you look, staff on hand for every possible need. For most of us, that sounds like something straight out of a fantasy film. For Princess Hajah Hafizah Saruro Bolkiah of Brunei, that level of royal luxury has been normal life since the day she was born. But what makes this Brunei princess so fascinating isn't just the scale of her wealth or the size of her home. It's how she has chosen to live within that world of privilege. As a scholar, a patron of the arts, a writer, a mother, and a quietly committed philanthropist, today, we're taking a closer look at the real life of this billionaire princess. From her childhood inside one of the world's richest royal families, to her extraordinary wedding, to the way she uses her position and her education now. Princess Hajah Hafizah was born on March 12, 1980 in Bandar Seri Begawan, the capital of Brunei. From day one, her surroundings were unlike anything most people will ever experience. Her father, Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah, is not only the ruler of Brunei, but also one of the wealthiest monarchs in the world, thanks largely to the country's vast oil and gas reserves. The family home, Istana Nurul Aman, is officially recognized as the largest residential palace on the planet, with over 1,700 rooms, grand halls, mosques, and state spaces. Growing up as the Sultan's fifth child and one of 10 siblings meant Princess Hafizah was surrounded by tradition, ceremony, and expectation. Yet those who followed her life closely often point out that, behind the tiaras and the formal titles, she has always shown a more grounded, studious side. Even as a young royal, she wasn't content to just coast on her status. Within Brunei, she applied herself academically and threw herself into sport, developing a reputation for being both intelligent and physically active. That combination, brains, discipline, a love of movement, already set her apart from a flat, one-dimensional stereotype many people have of billionaire princesses. Her parents also made sure she wasn't limited by national borders when it came to education. After excelling at home, she left Brunei to study in the United Kingdom, enrolling at Oxford Brookes University. Moving from the sheltered environment of Brunei's royal court to student life in England would be a culture shock for anyone, let alone someone raised in a 1,700-room palace. But by all accounts, she adapted and thrived. At Oxford Brookes, Princess Hafizah chose to study public administration, a field that demands an understanding of how governments work, how policies are shaped, and how public services are organized. In 2006, she completed her Bachelor of Arts degree, a milestone that marked her not just as a royal by birth, but as someone with a formal grounding in governance and public affairs. That overseas experience did more than just add a line to her resume. It broadened her view of the world beyond Brunei's borders, exposed her to different cultures and ways of thinking, and gave her insight into how other societies balance tradition, modernity, and public responsibility. For a princess expected to represent her country and her royal family, that perspective is invaluable. But her academic journey didn't stop there. After returning home, Princess Hafizah chose to deepen her studies even further, this time focusing on her own region and culture. She enrolled at University Brunei Darussalam and pursued a Master of Arts in Malay language and linguistics. By 2010, she had completed her degree, specializing in the structure, history, and expressive potential of the Malay language. It's an interesting and revealing choice. While many royals might gravitate towards purely political or economic subjects, Princess Hafizah invested her time in language, the foundation of culture, identity, and storytelling. That decision speaks to her curiosity and her desire to understand not only how countries are run, but also how people communicate, create, and preserve their heritage. That blend of international exposure and deep local focus helped shape the woman we see today, a royal who can move comfortably between worlds, from Western universities to Brunei's traditional court, from formal state functions to literary circles. If her education showed the thoughtful, intellectual side of her life, her wedding displayed the full scale of Brunei's royal grandeur. In September 2012, Princess Hajah Hafizah married Pangeran Haji Muhammad Rizaini, a fellow member of Brunei's nobility. The celebrations went far beyond a kind of lavish wedding most people imagine. This wasn't a single evening reception, or even a weekend event. The marriage rituals and ceremonies stretched over more than a week. filling Brunei with pageantry and drawing attention from around the world. Crowds of well-wishers, government officials, international dignitaries, and invited guests all took part in or observed various elements of the wedding. Inside the enormous halls of Istana Nurul Aman, the couple took part in an intricate Malay royal ceremony that blended centuries-old Islamic and local traditions with a full visual spectacle of a modern monarchy. Princess Hafizah wore an ornate crystal-beaded gown in soft beige and silver tones, echoing both contemporary bridal fashion and the elegance expected of a Bruneian princess. Heavy jewelry glittered at her neck, wrists, and ears, diamonds, gold, and precious stones catching the light at every turn. It wasn't just about personal adornment. It was a symbol of her family's status and the prosperity of the nation. The gifts presented to the newlyweds left no doubt about the scale of that wealth. Gold bars, diamond jewelry, luxury cars, and even entire properties formed part of the offerings. Each gift was both a token of goodwill and a public statement about the resources available to the royals of Brunei. To outside observers, it looked less like a wedding and more like a live demonstration of what it means to be part of one of the richest dynasties on earth. With the marriage, the couple received their own formal titles and standing within the complex structure of Brunei's royal and noble families. But once the ceremonies and receptions were over, another chapter began, one that took place further away from the cameras. Princess Hafizah and her husband established their own residence in Brunei, still surrounded by comfort and security, but with more privacy than the main palace. There, they began building a family, welcoming 3 children and taking on the everyday roles of parents, raising, nurturing, and educating the next generation, even if their version of everyday still comes with royal protocol and staff. At the same time, Princess Hafizah gradually stepped into more visible roles in Brunei's public life, not just as a royal figure at state events, but as an active contributor in cultural and charitable spheres. One of her biggest personal passions is literature. Far from being a ceremonial figurehead who just lends her name to book awards or library openings, she has written and published works herself in both Malay and English. Her writing spans poetry, short stories, and historical fiction, giving her a voice that goes beyond speeches and official statements. In those works, she has explored themes rooted in her culture and history, helping preserve and reinterpret Bruneian identity for younger generations. For a member of the Brunei royal family, publishing creative writing is not necessarily expected. It shows a more introspective, imaginative side to a woman often seen in highly controlled, formal settings. Her interest in creative expression doesn't stop with the written word. Princess Hafizah is known to be an enthusiastic supporter of Brunei's broader arts community. She attends exhibitions showcasing local visual artists, appears at concerts and cultural performances, and uses her presence to draw attention to the work of Bruneian musicians, painters, and performers. In a small nation where emerging artists can sometimes struggle for visibility and resources, having a billionaire princess publicly standing beside them sends a powerful message that creativity, culture, and artistic risk-taking have value, not just industry and finance. Alongside her cultural work, Princess Hafizah has also devoted significant time and energy to philanthropy. Rather than simply attaching her name to charities from a distance, she's known to engage directly with the causes she supports. Education is one major focus. She champions projects that broaden access to quality schooling and help young people, especially girls and young women, build the tools they need to succeed in modern Brunei and the wider region. Healthcare is another priority, with involvement in initiatives tied to hospitals, clinics, and public health campaigns. She has also lent her support to efforts around women's empowerment and environmental protection, adding her voice and influence to issues that are increasingly vital both within Brunei and globally. In practical terms, that has meant visits to schools, hospitals, orphanages, and community organizations. During these appearances, reports often highlight that she doesn't limit herself to ceremonial ribbon cutting. She spends time speaking with staff, families, children, and patients, listening to their experiences and concerns. That personal engagement is where her reputation for humility comes from. On paper, she is a billionaire princess living in one of the world's largest palaces, surrounded by staff and security. In person, those who have met her describe someone who makes a real effort to connect, not just pose for photographs. That combination Immense wealth and genuine human warmth is relatively rare in public life, especially at this level of privilege. It's part of why observers often single her out within the Brunei royal family as particularly compelling. What stands out most about Princess Hafizah is that she hasn't allowed the scale of her fortune to completely define her public identity. Yes, she lives in extraordinary comfort. Yes, her wedding was one of the most lavish in recent royal history. But in parallel with all that, she has built a profile based on education, cultural engagement, and targeted philanthropy. She is a reminder that not every member of a billionaire dynasty chooses the same path. Some lean fully into displays of luxury. Others step into politics directly. Princess Hafizah has chosen a quieter, more cultural route, studying governance and language, writing books, supporting artists, visiting schools and hospitals, and lending her weight to charity. In a world where royal families are constantly scrutinized and often criticized as relics of another era, figures like her play an important role in keeping the institution relevant and connected to ordinary people. She shows that even within a system built on inherited status, there can be room for personal growth, intellectual exploration, and a sincere desire to improve the lives of others. The image of a princess in a 1,700-room palace will always capture attention. But once you look beyond the chandeliers and the gold-plated decor, Princess Hafizah Surur Bolkiah's life also tells a quieter, more meaningful story of a royal woman who has tried to balance privilege with responsibility and glamour with genuine compassion. For followers of royal news around the world, she is one of the more intriguing modern examples of how a member of a very wealthy monarchy can use that position, not only to enjoy the luxuries that come with it, but to support